that we have a number of resources related to this year and indeed this decade, including a couple of courses. One is called Belfast in the World, which is funded by Peace 4, and another is a Decade of Centenaries course that's funded by TAO. And again, if you want more information about those courses, please get in touch with me through the Corrymeela website. I also let you know yesterday that we are producing a play, and Philip Orr is writing that for us. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about a new resource, a new podcast that we're developing. And I've actually asked my colleague Emily to come in. Emily's been working very hard on this podcast development and getting some speakers together. So I've actually asked her to come in. But before I do that, I'm actually going to share the trailer for the podcast. So I'm just going to share screen, and it's you're just going to see the icon for the sound, the audio. So nothing very interesting, unfortunately, but just have a wee listen to this. Just give me a second while I share screen. If I can find it, of course. And I always have to make sure that I am using computer audio as well. Paul, can you let me know if you can hear it?
I shall indeed. Okay. Nothing just at the moment. No, I'm not hearing anything, Hedley.
You're not hearing that? No?
No, they're not.
Let me just stop it. Stop the share. Try it again.
Back to the share page, bottom left-hand corner, there should be a button saying share computer sound, computer audio.
Let me just, it's saying leave computer audio, so I think it is share on it, Paul.
Okay.
We'll give it another go. Oh, here we go. Okay, we'll give it another go.
Hello and welcome to the Corrymeela podcast, conversations about politics, history, art and theology. My name is Padraig O'Tuama and I'm the former leader of the Corrymeela community, Ireland's oldest peace and reconciliation community. Corrymeela has been doing public conversations about belonging for decades, but this is our first podcast. Normally, the Corrymeela Centre up on the north coast of Ireland is filled with people doing group work and talking about their differences. It could be youth groups or youth leaders or teachers or community and faith leaders, enjoying great meals, lighting fires and doing the difficult work of togetherness in a spirit of temporary community and understanding. But COVID. So like you, we're all working from home. And instead of us all being together, we're bringing conversations to you. We're delighted to do this. And for this year, which is a heavy year, a year of pandemic, but also the year of the centenary of the partition of Ireland, and it's the first year of Brexit, I'll be in conversation with 12 guests about Irishness and Britishness. And we'll be looking at this through the lenses of politics and history, art and theology.
When he said that, he was merely echoing De Valera.
Well, first of all, I have great faith. I mean, I do believe that there is a loving God out there, and I do believe that I'm answering.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to sort of discover writing poetry, or maybe I should say rediscover writing poetry, and in some way
In all of this, we want to ask questions about how to be together with each other, doing something called peace and democracy and society well, in a way where we can all flourish, in a way where more justice can happen. Not everyone's interested in religion, politics, art, or history, but here everyone's affected by them. So we take these things very seriously in these conversations. These conversations are not the final word, just a starter. Some of them are very funny, some are very moving, some are enraging, some challenging. They're all invitations to you, the listener. If you're interested in joining the conversation, We've got discussion questions that we'll offer you every week, all linked on the website, corrymeela.org/podcast, or you can download them from the show notes as well. You can engage with those questions alone, or you might want to engage with them with people in your house or in your family or friends on Zoom. You might want to just write about them or start off some kind of discussion group. However you want to engage with them, we're delighted to offer these to you. We can do this because of the generosity of our funders, the Henry Luce Foundation, the Fund for Reconciliation from the Irish Government, the Community Relations Council in Northern Ireland, and those friends at Corrymeela who give monthly or annually to support the work. We are thrilled to offer you these conversations. They were all recorded remotely during lockdown, and we offer them from our kitchen tables to yours. Our first episode will be broadcast on February the 18th, and that'll be an interview with former Irish President Dr. Mary McAleese. She's just the first of these 12. After her, there's other writers and poets and musicians and political analysts and historians. None of the episodes is longer than an hour, and every episode ends with the guest telling us a very short story from their life, so make sure to listen right to the end. Pull up a chair, listen to us as we listen, and talk with us as we talk. The Corrymeela podcast, because we believe that together is better.
So that's just a little tutorial that we put together for the podcast, and I'm delighted that I'm joined by my colleague Emily this morning, because these things require work, they require determination and commitment, and I've just asked Emily to come in. So Emily, do you want to say hello for a start and tell us where the idea for the podcast came from? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hello. So as Hedley said, I've been working with Corrymeela as an intern in the programme department since August 2019, actually. So about 18 months now. And the podcast came about out of particularly kind of the work of the public theology department at Corrymeela. And it felt, particularly at the moment when we are so kind of restricted in kind of what we can do, it felt like an appropriate time to make a podcast as a way of carrying on engaging with some of the issues that we would usually engage with. So,
very good. Very good. Thank you. I suppose what we've been doing over the past 12 months or so is realizing our capabilities. We've been pushed into doing stuff, and this is very much part of that. So obviously you had a blank sheet at the start, Emily. You thought who we're going to get. So what kind of ideas were kind of coming from who we're going to talk to, who's going to be part of the podcast?
Yeah, so I think we were keen to get a range of voices from Ireland North and South, from other parts of the UK as well, and yeah, people that could speak to ideas of Britishness and Irishness from a number of different perspectives. So it was important to get historians at the moment to talk about partition and the legacies of partition, but also theologians, artists, people with experience in kind of politics and diplomacy. So a couple of the snapshots you heard there were from Mary McAleese, who was the first interviewee, and from Gail McConnell, who was the second. She's a poet and a lecturer, and both of their interviews are available now. But I think not only will we getting people from a variety of disciplines, so that I suppose the question is, what do these various disciplines have to offer? Questions of identity and belonging and commemoration and memory. What can poetry offer to these conversations? What can politics offer? What can research and data analysis offer? So it was just people that could come from a range of different disciplines and also perspectives in terms of their own identities. So there will be people who identify as British, people who identify as Irish, and also people who bring into that mix a muddle of other things. So Jamaican identities and Nigerian identities, and just a mix really was the priority, I think.
Excellent, and I suppose we're here at an event, Emily, that is focusing at events that mark the centenary of partition on the island, of the creation of the state of Northern Ireland. Kind of thorny issues, and in some respects we could just do an historical run through and just tell you the facts of what happened. But it's about more than that. It's about kind of tapping into people's emotions, and that, I think Padraig said it in the trailer, that's the sticky stuff, that's the thorny stuff. And so is that very much part of the process then, and that's what you're encouraging people to do?
Yeah, I think so. I'd say that it definitely embraces the complexity of the issues, and it kind of comes again and again back to the takeaway message, I suppose, that identity is that it's complicated, it shifts and it changes over time, and it's impacted by a huge range of factors. So I suppose particularly in terms of partition, we have got historians speaking about kind of the nuts and bolts of what happened, and but we've also got people who I suppose speak to the legacy of partition and the impact of that, even as they see it sort of playing out in their own lives. And I suppose as Padraig says in the trailer, none of these interviews are the final word. It is very much about kind of starting and facilitating these conversations, and I think that's reflected in the fact that we provide discussion questions with each transcript of each interview. Those are all available online, alongside those very short story questions, which we put to each of the guests, and which we also provide to listeners as a way of facilitating their own thinking about identity and history and the ways in which these things continue to impact on them in their own lives as well.
Excellent, and to be able to have a takeaway in some respects, and say, right, here's a start for your thought process, and here's how you can develop it. Now, so we've had Mary McAleese, and we've had Gail McConnell, and I think I heard Johnson's dulcet tones there as well, Johnson McMaster's dulcet tones. Are you able to give us a wee teaser? Well, first of all, how was that process? First of all, interviewing somebody like Mary McAleese or Gail McConnell, how was that process for you? And are you able to give us a wee teaser of what's coming up in the future?
Yeah, so it was really remarkable, I think, just to be kind of listening into those conversations and thinking about, entry questions, because I think as I've said, as well as getting them to talk about their own perspectives from a professional stance and from the point of view of their disciplines, I think these podcasts kind of go beyond that to a more personal take on it as well, and what does your identity mean to you? So I'll give you a bit of a flavour of some of the very short story questions. Things like, tell us about a time when you felt foreign. Tell us about a time when your national identity felt important to you. Has anyone ever said that you had been disloyal to your culture or your identity? So they are questions which seek to kind of get to the heart of people as well, I think. And without naming names, I will say that we've got people who can speak to issues of environmentalism, of migration, of racism and anti-racism. We've got very prominent musicians coming up. So yeah, a real mix in the next few weeks.
Lovely. Yeah, don't name names. Keep us on the edge of our seats. That's very good. Okay. We're coming to the end of our time. Emily, thank you very much. I suppose the important question is, how can we access the podcast? How can we download it?
So it's available at corrymeela.org/podcast. You can also subscribe on iTunes and on Spotify.